Imagine you're going through life, confident you know how the world works, and then bam, something so unexpected happens. It shatters all your plans and beliefs. That's The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, a book that teaches us to live in a world where unpredictability isn't the exception, but the rule. It's about how randomness, rare events with immense impact, shape our reality, and why we're so poorly prepared for them. Taleb, a former trader and mathematician, wrote The Black Swan in 2007, inspired by his experiences in financial markets and his reflections on human blindness to the unexpected. The book came out a year before the global financial crisis of 2008, which became a living example of a black swan, an event no one predicted, but which changed everything. Taleb doesn't just philosophize. He provides tools for how not to become a victim of such events. Nassim Taleb's The Black Swan is worth reading to understand how unpredictable events shape our lives and to learn how to protect yourself from their consequences. The book teaches you not to blindly trust forecasts, to be ready for chaos, and to turn randomness into opportunities. It's a practical guide to a world where stability is an illusion and anti-fragility is the key to success. Chapter 1. The Apprenticeship of an Irregular. This chapter tells the story of how a way of thinking that goes against conventional norms is formed through personal experience and observations of a world where randomness plays a key role. Unorthodox thinking is formed through confronting reality, not through blindly following traditions. Life teaches you to look at events more broadly than textbooks or societal patterns allow, and this becomes the basis for understanding unpredictability. Randomness and rare events are more significant than daily routine. Instead of ignoring them, it's worth learning to notice their influence and draw lessons from the unexpected. Someone who grew up in a small town with rigid rules moves to a metropolis, faces chaos, and learns to survive by relying not on old habits, but on flexibility and observation. The foundation of an unconventional approach is the willingness to accept reality as it is, with its chaos and randomness, rather than trying to fit it into convenient frameworks. Chapter 2. We just ain't that good. This chapter compares human behavior to animal behavior to show how instincts and imitation prevent us from seeing the true picture of the world. People tend to copy others without thinking about the meaning of their actions, which makes them vulnerable to the unexpected. Such imitation creates an illusion of control, but doesn't prepare for rare events. Awareness of one's instincts helps to go beyond automatic behavior. Understanding that we often act like monkeys pushes us towards a more conscious analysis of situations. An investor sees everyone buying shares of one company, but instead of blindly following, they study the market and avoid a crash when the bubble bursts. Recognizing the animalistic nature within oneself is the first step to stop being a puppet of the crowd and start thinking independently. Chapter 3. The Speculator and the Dog. This chapter discusses how history misleads us, making us think that the past predictably explains the future. History seems logical only in retrospect, but in real time, it's full of chaos. Lessons from the past are useful, but offer no guarantees for the future, because rare events are unpredictable. One shouldn't rely on historical data as an accurate forecast. It's better to use them as examples of possible scenarios rather than as ultimate truths. An economist who studied the 1929 crisis doesn't expect an exact repetition, but prepares a business for any sudden upheavals, like a pandemic. History is not a crystal ball, but a funhouse mirror that distorts reality, and blind faith in it is dangerous. Chapter 4. 1,001 Days, or How Not to Be a Sucker. Through the parable of the turkey, which is fed for 1,000 days and then slaughtered, the deceptive nature of stability is shown. Long periods of stability create an illusion of security, but it can crumble at any moment. Living with the expectation of the 1,001st day teaches you not to get complacent and to prepare for the worst. Risk diversification protects against sudden blows of fate. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, it's worth spreading resources to survive a crash. A person invests money not only in one bank, but also in real estate and gold. And when the bank fails, they don't lose everything. Stability is a trap, and the ability to live with the thought of the 1,001st day saves you from disaster. Chapter 5. Confirmation, or rescuing from drowning. This chapter examines people's tendency to seek confirmation for their beliefs, ignoring facts that contradict them. Searching only for confirming data leads to self-deception and vulnerability. To avoid this, you need to consciously seek contradictions and test your ideas thoroughly. Skepticism towards one's own beliefs makes thinking flexible. Instead of defending your correctness, it's better to ask questions and doubt the obvious. A scientist tests a hypothesis not only with successful experiments, but also looks for cases where it doesn't work to improve the theory. Truth is revealed not through blind faith, but through the willingness to see your mistakes. Chapter 6, the narrative fallacy. This explains how people invent stories to make sense of random events and how this prevents them from seeing the truth. Narratives simplify a complex world, but distort reality. Understanding this helps you focus on facts, not on pretty explanations. Rejecting stories in favor of data analysis protects against illusions. Instead of searching for causes after events, it's better to study their consequences without unnecessary speculation. A journalist covering a disaster doesn't invent why it was inevitable, but simply describes what happened and how it affected people. Narratives are crutches for the mind, and giving them up opens the way to a more sober view of the world. Chapter 7, living in the antechamber of the casino. Life is compared to playing in a casino, where we only see wins but don't account for hidden risks. Other successes seem logical, while failures go unnoticed. Realizing this teaches us to look at the full picture, including invisible losses. Living with hidden risks means not being deluded by others' victories. You need to assess not only visible results, but also what could have gone wrong. An entrepreneur, inspired by a competitor's success, studies not only their achievements, but also the risks they endured, and prepares for them himself. Life isn't just about the bright lights of the casino, but also the dark corners that cannot be ignored. Chapter 8, the proof. This chapter shows how difficult it is to prove the absence of something, and how this relates to rare events. The impossibility of proving non-existence makes us vulnerable to black swans. Instead of trying to refute everything, we should focus on protecting ourselves from the consequences. Accepting uncertainty reduces a false sense of control. Living with the understanding that not everything can be proven helps you be ready for the unexpected. A company doesn't waste time proving that a crisis won't happen. Instead, it creates an emergency fund in case one does. Waiting for proof of the impossible is a waste of time. It's better to prepare for what might happen. Chapter 9, from Mediocristan to Extremistan and back. This chapter introduces the distinction between two worlds, the predictable Mediocristan and the chaotic Extremistan. Mediocristan is a world of averages, where rarities don't have an impact, while Extremistan is a world of extremes and randomness. Understanding which world a situation belongs to helps correctly assess risks. In Extremistan, you can't rely on statistics and forecasts. It's better to make plans that account for sudden spikes and unexpected events. A doctor, knowing that a patient's growth is Mediocristan and a rare disease is Extremistan, checks not only standard symptoms, but also unusual cases. Distinguishing between Mediocristan and Extremistan is key to correctly assessing the world and your actions within it. Chapter 10, the scandal of prediction. This chapter exposes the illusion that the future can be accurately predicted, especially in the conditions of Extremistan. Predictions in complex systems are unreliable due to black swans. Instead of believing in forecasts, it's better to focus on resilience to any outcome. Skepticism toward experts saves you from false expectations. Checking their past predictions shows how often they are wrong. An investor ignores analysts' sensational market forecasts and allocates capital to withstand any downturn. Predictability is a myth, and you need to live with that truth, not against it. Chapter 11, the discovery of Zarathustra, or the top-down fallacy. This chapter tells how people living in comfortable conditions lose touch with reality and fail to notice hidden risks that accumulate beneath the surface. Living on the top floor in an illusion of security blinds you to threats that are growing imperceptibly. Understanding this teaches you to descend and view the world from different levels to see the full picture. Randomness more often destroys those who are disconnected from the chaos of reality. Constant interaction with uncertainty helps you be ready for unexpected turns of fate. A manager at a large company, instead of sitting in the office, regularly visits the production floor and notices equipment problems, preventing an accident. Detachment from reality is a one-way ticket to disaster, while connection to it is a chance to avoid it. Chapter 12. The Echo in My Ears. Through the metaphor of a ringing bell, this chapter shows how past events and mistakes continue to influence the present, even if they are ignored. The past leaves traces that cannot be silenced, and they remind us of the fragility of the present moment. The ability to listen to these echoes helps us avoid repeating old mistakes and prepare for new challenges. Ignoring lessons from the past increases vulnerability to randomness. Instead of denial, it's worth analyzing how past black swans changed life and using that knowledge. Someone who experienced a financial crash due to debt now avoids loans and builds savings, hearing the echo of past experience. The past isn't just memories. It's signals that need to be heard to avoid being deafened to the future. Chapter 13. Just don't predict. This chapter emphasizes the futility of trying to predict the future in a world where black swans shatter all plans, and it proposes a different approach to life. Predictions in complex systems are a waste of time due to their unreliability. It's better to focus on building resilience to any scenario than to guess what tomorrow holds. Living without forecasts frees you from illusions and teaches you to act in the here and now. Planning is replaced by flexibility and a readiness to adapt to the unexpected. An entrepreneur doesn't try to guess whether demand for their product will grow, but creates a business model that works in any scenario from crisis to boom. Giving up predictions isn't a weakness, but a strength that allows you to live in the real, not the imagined world. Chapter 14. From Mediocristan to Extremistan, and no way back. This chapter describes the modern world's transition from the predictable Mediocristan to the chaotic Extremistan, where rare events dictate everything. The world is becoming increasingly extreme, and the old rules of Mediocristan no longer apply. Understanding this transition helps you reframe your thinking and actions to align with a reality where randomness reigns supreme. In Extremistan, you need to prepare for extremes, not averages. Life is built not on stability, but on the ability to withstand sharp fluctuations and utilize them. A company accustomed to steady sales growth reorganizes its logistics to handle sudden spikes in demand, as during a pandemic. Extremistan is the new normal, and a return to simplicity is impossible. So you must learn to live with extremes. Chapter 15. The bell curve, that great intellectual fraud. Through the image of the Gaussian curve, bell-shaped curve, this chapter explains how statistics can mislead by hiding rare but significant events. The bell curve works only in Mediocristan, but in Extremistan, it's silent about black swans. Recognizing its limitations teaches you not to trust standard models in complex systems. Instead of blindly believing in statistics, you should look for invisible risks. Living in Extremistan requires attention to what lies beyond the bell. A financier, instead of relying on average stock returns, studies rare cases of crashes and protects his portfolio from them. The bell's silence is a warning that statistics are blind to the most important events. Chapter 16. The Aesthetics of Randomness. This chapter explores the beauty and complexity of random processes that shape the world and how they can be appreciated rather than feared. Randomness is not only a threat, but also a source of uniqueness and opportunities. Embracing its aesthetics helps to see potential for growth, not destruction, in chaos. Living with an awareness of randomness means finding inspiration in it. Instead of fighting unpredictability, you can use it as a creative force. An artist creates paintings inspired by random patterns in nature and transforms chaos into art that moves people. Randomness is not an enemy, but a part of life that can be embraced and utilized. Chapter 17. Locke and the Mad Dentist. Through a comparison of the philosopher Locke and a fictional dentist, the difference between rational skepticism and blind confidence in knowledge is shown. Locke's skepticism teaches teaches us to doubt absolute truths and be open to the unknown. This protects us from dogmas and prepares us for unexpected turns of fate. The mad dentist's confidence in his knowledge is dangerous in Extremistan. Living with an awareness of your limits helps avoid catastrophes from overestimating possibilities. A teacher, instead of imposing one viewpoint on students, encourages them to question and seek answers independently, preparing them for real life. Rational skepticism is a shield against blind overconfidence that crumbles everything in a chaotic world. Chapter 18, The Game of Prediction. This chapter exposes the futility of predictions in Extremistan and proposes focusing on consequences rather than guessing. Predictions are a game that cannot be won due to black swans. Instead of trying to guess the future, it's better to build systems resilient to any outcome. Focusing on consequences makes life simpler and more reliable. Assessing risks and preparing for them is more important than trying to foresee the unforeseen. City authorities don't guess whether there will be a flood. They build dams and evacuation plans to minimize damage in any event. Predictions are a waste of effort, and true strength lies in readiness for consequences. Chapter 19, Half Finished. Concluding reflections on how to live with an awareness of uncertainty, drawing a line under the book's ideas, and leaving room for a further journey. Life is not a finished path, but a constant movement in conditions of chaos where there are no final answers. Accepting this teaches you not to seek absolute truth, but to adapt to changes and learn as you go. Resilience is built through a readiness for incompleteness and randomness. Instead of striving to control everything, it's worth focusing on flexibility and the ability to weather the unexpected. Someone planning a career doesn't fixate on one goal, but masters various skills to be ready for any turns of fate, be it a career change or a crisis. Life is not a finish line, but an endless process, where the key to success is the ability to move forward despite uncertainty. This is such a wonderful book. I have compiled a separate list of all the important theses from this book, along with all the techniques and tools, and created a step-by-step action plan that you can immediately implement in your life. You can get all this in my community, Place of Power. There, you will find a detailed text analysis with similar lists for each book being reviewed. The community has already thoroughly analyzed and made available to you hundreds of world bestsellers, with a new analysis released every day. Follow the link in the description and use it.